For those with successful careers, what brings you here? I think it's easy to complain if you are poor. What about those who are not? Just because I have personally benefited from the system doesn't make it a good system. Because my successful career can end at a moment's notice based on a whim of my employer. The stats on someone my age recovering from that are consistently poor. I'm an employment lawyer who represents employees taking action against their employers. Because I sympathize with the plight of workers and want to keep informed of the issues facing employees. Posting here makes sense. Most of us are much closer to homelessness than real wealth, even if we have good incomes. That is how skewed it has become. Just because I make a living wage and bought a 1,100 square feet house doesn't mean I'm happy about the way people speak to me or the amount of my life I'm sacrificing in order to make enough money for a small house in the cheapest city in my state. I listen, read, and learn to be a better manager, supervisor, owner. A lot of the gripes are fixable, and it makes me sad seeing the same issues come up over and over. I want other leaders to take heed and stop sucking so bad. I don't consider myself to have succeeded. I am still drowning in debt. But compared to wage slaves, I must seem like a king. To support my fellow man. I know what it's like to be poor and hopeless, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody. So many of my friends and just random people I meet every day are struggling. And struggling bad. I have always felt this was wrong. I will always be pro-worker and do what I can to influence others around me to support socialist aspirations. Edit. More to the point of your question. I'm here to stay aware of how things really are out there and not become complacent. The ever-looming possibility of being laid off. Also, return to office. Because I am doing well, saving for retirement, and have a pension, and yet I still don't know that I'll have enough to ever retire. Especially if I live past 80. That shouldn't be a worry for how well I am doing. I've had terrible employers that took advantage of me. I made it out, but I'd still like to offer support to those in that position. I have a good career, but it sickens me how so many workers are treated around the world. I am here to offer my support for worker solidarity, unions. We learned a lot about unions and their importance in college. And I am baffled that things seem to be getting worse and not better. I would say that we aren't learning from our mistakes and should study history. But I believe this is actually intentional by the wealthy elite in power, and the poor are virtually powerless to stop it at this point. We might have a chance if we could find a way to unite all workers. But the wealthy elite are experts at dividing and conquering us by distracting our attention to other things that make us fight each other. Politics, religion, gender wars or actual wars, and so many other things that are really not that important in the grand scheme of things. The only thing that really matters is the same thing that has mattered for most of human history. Money is power, and the wealthy will do everything they can to keep their power. Most of the issues we have that divide us are illusions created by the wealthy to keep us divided. Edit. I felt compelled to give one specific example in case it helps to broaden someone's perspective. Abortion. Try to forget every argument you have ever heard on this topic and instead ask yourself, do you honestly believe that any wealthy person on this planet would have even the slightest issue getting an abortion if they chose, regardless of the legality, morality of the issue? Quote, there are only two classes. The wealth class and the working class. Anyone who tries to pretend otherwise is exploiting us. I make a good income and can be considered comparatively wealthy, but I am still a worker. Subject to at-will states. An economy that trashes my 401k or the value of my home. and as such I will never be in the 1% wealth class. So I stand with all workers, especially those who are in my class but even less well off. It took me ages to become successful, and it involved a lot of luck and job changing. I was almost always more poor than most of my peers. The system only works for a few, and even though I freelance, I will never feel completely safe that any of my employment will last forever. Everyone should have the right to be happy, healthy, and live their best life, not be ground to pulp for the financial gain of a few who can't satisfy their need for more of everything. Because I know the system is rigged against you guys and I like it not to be. The fact that I did well in my career, notwithstanding, I often wonder when reading posts here, how much younger generations understand how screwed they are and how rigged the system is against them and how much it's going to get worse. You should expect to see ever lower real wages and worse employment conditions as we get deeper into end-stage capitalism. Wealth will be ever more concentrated to an ever smaller proportion of the population. If you're living paycheck to paycheck and in debt, that's the way they want you to be, because that way you cannot strike. You are completely under their control. Because I'm a lot closer to any of you than I am to a VP, let alone the CEO or one of our shareholders. I know who I need to stand with. I might be successful at what I do, but it's still work at the end of the day, and I wouldn't do it if I didn't need the money. I believe late-stage capitalism has destroyed the true meaning of work, and find this sub a good place to learn, commiserate and imagine a better way. I'd rather have an ear to the ground than a thumb up my ass. Just because you were able to scale an impossible mountain doesn't mean others should be penalized for not being able to do it. My 20s sucked because of the system. My 30s were okay. I'm in my late 40s, doing very well. I want others to have a better life than I do, even if it means I get kicked back to doing okay.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.